Welcome to Respec Games, where we respect games. This is Tail. This is Polo. I'm Polo. That's Tail. And we are Respec Gaming. The gaming podcast is brought to you every Wednesday at 7 a.m. So much for supporting and listening. We appreciate you. It means the world to us. Make sure, if like anime, you check out Might Check Waifu, the anime podcast we do every Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. CT. The link will be in the show notes. We appreciate those who listen to both Mic Check and Respec. And if you're into anime, go check out that podcast. Does very well for us. We appreciate all the love and support over there as well. But Tell, how you feeling, man? We're back with Respec Gaming after a week hiatus. And again, we apologize for that. We both were sick. I'm still a little sick. So if you hear me a little sniffly this episode, forgive me. I'll try to minimize it as much as possible. But Tell, how you feeling?
I'm feeling a lot better. As Polo said, we were both feeling, I wasn't even necessarily under the weather. I felt like I was under the gravity. And I mean, like, gravity was up a lot. I had a pounding headache, but I'm significantly better now. And I'm glad to see that you're feeling a little bit better as well, even though you're not to 100%.
Right.
But it is good to be better than it was last week.
Yeah, that's for damn sure. All right, man. This week we got a special episode, man. I think it's going to elicit some great conversation because starting off with respect, as we start off every podcast episode, to give our badge of respect to developers, gamers, or communities and such, to just give flowers to those who we feel deserve it for that week. And this week, I definitely feel like with respect badge should go to No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky continue to put out incredible updates. The update they just came out with recently is the ability to basically customize your ship, but not only customize your ship on the outside, you can actually now walk around inside of your ship in No Man's Sky. Not only that, you can now EVA outside of your ship in space, which is incredible. I saw a clip of somebody posting them EVAing off their ship and falling all the way down to a planet completely seamless, no loading screens whatsoever. I saw somebody build a ship that looks like a beautiful living room, and he just set a ship in cruise control and was just chilling in his ship. And that is just some amazing tech that No Man's Sky builds with every new update. And I do want to give my respect badge to Hello Games, because what they do is they're developing a new game called Light No Fire, and that's a very ambitious game again, where it's the size of a world. So the planet is an actual size of a planet, and all the players are going to be able to play in it. And what they did was they developed that tech to be able to, I guess, build the ships and walk around your ships. And they put that tech inside of No Man's Sky. So everything they did develop for Light No Fire, they then spin to build. And Light No Fire is an adventure game, by the way. It's like a fantasy adventure game, which is completely different than No Man's Sky. But still, whatever tech they build for Light No Fire, they move over to No Man's Sky in a unique way for it to fit No Man's Sky's like build, which is just incredible, man. And it's all free. It never costs any money. You just buy the game once and you have access to all these crazy updates that No Man's Sky has been coming out since 2016 and still climbing. So shout out to No Man's Sky and Hello Games for everything they do. That comeback is crazy.
That game you mentioned, is it Light No Fire?
Light No Fire.
So I remember looking at that a while ago, and I thought that was extremely ambitious. But it was very cool, and I love the concept of it. So I'm glad that I'm happy to even hear that was implemented in that way, and we're still expecting something from that. Man, that's great. My with respect badge is going to go to Maximillian Dood. Maximillian Dood is a YouTuber who is prominent in like the fighting game community and whatnot, but he also does a lot of like esports commentary. But one of the things I really wanted to give him props for was the fact that he developed a game that was based off Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. It's a fan-made game, obviously, but he introduced new characters and introduced new mechanics and whatnot into the game, while you still need to pay for the original game. And I think that's a really cool concept that he and a team developed a game where you essentially get a whole other game on top of it, but you still have to pay the original creators of that game. So Marvel vs. Capcom is essentially like a mod, like from the modding community and things that we've talked about before. But the love that he put into that game, the detail, the time, it's been in the making for a very long time. And officially seeing the release and gameplay of it was, and it's not completely finished yet. It's still in the middle of being developed, but seeing some of the work that was completed in it and some of the new characters, some of the new costumes, just the tweaks and mechanics that he's introduced and his team has introduced, I think it's been a really cool ride as someone who just likes to turn these videos on as a viewer every once in a while. It's just a cool concept to see that there is a community and even developers who are okay with letting that kind of imagination fly.
Incredible. That's dope to hear, though. I love that. All right, let's move on to vertical slice. Shing.
Sound effect.
What is your vertical slice for the week of?
So my vertical slice is Sonic Racing CrossWorlds.
Okay.
That game, hear me out. It's ridiculous. Now, I did say I was going to be playing this game with my kids anyway. They had a play test. And,
okay.
And while the game was playable, you could play for a while, and then on the 30th you could unlock Joker from Persona and use him as a character to play as. And the main thing I want to talk about with this game is that not comparatively, but it just feels like you're never truly completely out of the race. And there are games where it's a party game and there's so much going on to where you do feel like you've lost the race, you're out of the race. And it felt like intense in the aspects of like, I know that my character is all over the place. I am in a lot of control, and it feels like there's a lot to learn. If you're used to like kart racer games, like let's say Mario Kart, obviously, this obviously feels a one-to-one, but it has its own mechanics. It feels and flows differently, and then they have different modes where there's this festival mode where you're playing, and it's 3 teams, 4v4, and you gain speed by bumping into your teammates. And you have to gather coins as well as come in first place. So you get more points for coming in first place as a team, whoever gets placed the highest, and then you also get more points for gathering the most coins. So there's like a double way to win, and it unlocks different gadgets and things that help you play differently or utilize how you pick up items and whatnot in the world differently. And it introduced this aspect of the race can be unpredictable by choosing different worlds that you cross into. So whoever is in first place may choose a different route to take for a lap.
Changes the world.
So you get 2 different options basically, and you can choose a completely random one or one that is already picked out. So it's like if you come in first, you can choose to kind of almost elevate your advantage or what you think your advantage is. But you also, if you're online, which online has been amazing. I've won a couple matches. I've recorded them. So I will be putting them together as like a little Mod Podge and putting them into the Respec YouTube.
Yes.
But the online racing, it felt good. It felt smooth. It feels intuitive. My kids even play, and it didn't even look like they were struggling. It's all straightforward, but there is a ceiling that you still have to understand. And I love that, where the barrier to entry is low, but the skill ceiling is high. So I'm very interested in playing this game in the future when it comes out later on this month. I think it comes out on the 25th.
That's interesting. That one seems like if I was to play anything like, okay, so let's say I had a Switch 2, okay, and I was to just pick any game to play between, the game that Switch 2 has, and I'm sure the Sonic one coming out for Switch 2, right?
Yeah, I believe it will.
I would definitely play that over Mario Kart World. I watched quite a few Mario Kart Worlds gameplay, and it's just more Mario Kart, which is great. Mario Kart is a great game, and it always will be. But what you just described seems more interesting to me, more fun to me, as far as the type of racing I want to do. Just being, if you get in the first, you can just fucking cross across worlds. It's so cool, man.
Right.
That's so sick. That's a sick mechanic. It's unique, I think. And then the characters, obviously, I'll be more interested in because of, Yakuza and Persona and all these characters that I absolutely love is in it. So, yeah, that's amazing. My vertical slice is last week. Obviously, I played more Guild Wars 2. There is even though we didn't release an episode, there was a video that released for Guild Wars 2 again, titled "The End," which was a continuation of the previous video, it was insane. It was an insane video. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Shout out to all the support again on that. I got one more Guild Wars 2 video I'm gonna do later on. That's gonna go on the Respec channel. Probably not this week, maybe next week, but yeah, one more, and then everything else Guild Wars 2 related is gonna go on my personal channel. But my vertical slice goes to Path of Exile 2. They just released their first seasonal league, and it's like pre-alpha state of the game or early access state of the game. It's called a 30 Edict. It's patch 0.3, and they had a free weekend this weekend. So if I hope you guys got a chance to check that out, but I played a lot of it. And this season is definitely made up for last season. Last season was rough, but this one is leagues, no pun intended, above where it was prior. And for the first time in Path of Exile history, they buffed minions. At least it feels like Path of Exile here. I got about 500 hours in Path of Exile 1, 300 hours in this one, but minions are fantastic, and that's my favorite playstyle in ARPGs, these type of games, and I'm loving it. I'm having a blast. At first, I said I was going to do something different this season. I'm going to do Deadeye, which is just a bow and arrow user, and I was going to do something called Lightning Arrow. And Lightning Arrow is very strong. It's the most busted thing in the game right now, but it's just not my play style. Just shooting an arrow in the air and then letting everything explode. That's cool. It's so boring though. So I switched back to my minions, and that's been a heck of a lot more fun. Unironically, minions are less boring to me than something like a Deadeye, but it's been great, man. Path of Exile 2 has been awesome. Again, check it out if you haven't. If y'all haven't, it's cheap. I think it's like $40 to just pick up, and it's a lot of fun. Very convoluted, so make sure you look on YouTube and find some builds you want to play with and go from there. But it's awesome. It's awesome. And this week,
the skill trees in that game are thick.
Yeah, it's very thick. But unironically, if you take the time to just sit and look at it, and you look at where you start, and you just read the nodes, you kind of get an idea of where you can go, right? So right now in my tree, it's minion damage because I'm using minions. So I just follow minion damage all the way up until I go to the next minion node. Oh, I'm starting to take a lot of damage. So let me start to move over to some shield regen charge trees, and just you kind of like free flow it through that way. Or again, you can just find a build and follow that and tweak it however you want. But it's a good time. It's been a good time. All right. Let's move on to addressing the community. Addressing the community after vertical slice is perfect because this is going to be Rob Stone's. Shout out to Rob Stone, who is a Patreon supporter over on our anime podcast. Who gave us his vertical slice this week. He says, excuse me, I don't have my glasses, so forgive me. But he says, this week I played and finished The Root Trees Are Dead on Steam. You are an investigator who is piecing a family tree together in the 90s using the internet, books, and magazines to gather evidence and prove who should inherit after a family called the Root Trees die in an accident. It was originally a free game that was released on Steam with an extra free campaign. To go back to your topic on DLC and supporting developers, this is the attitude I adopted for this free game. I finished the mystery at Christmas. Which I think is the DLC, when it was free. So buying it was just to support the creator. Then I found out that it had this secondary mystery that almost doubled the size of the game and recontextualized your first investigation. I definitely got my money's worth, and even with already finishing the main game, that said, it still is second to Return of the Umbra Den as a fantasy puzzle game. That is one of my top 10 of all time, and if you've not come across it, it's worth looking up, even if it is not for you in the end. Return of the Umbra Den. I'm gonna look that up now, actually.
Yeah, I'm gonna see as well. Return of the Umbra Den. It is overwhelmingly positive as well.
Oh, you know what? He did mention this a while ago. I do remember him mentioning this. I thought I added it to my wish list, but I guess I didn't. It just says the about just says Lost at Sea 1803, the good ship, the Umbra Den.
Yeah, it has this sepia aesthetic.
Very interesting.
It's the old yellow scale, tan looking imagery. But definitely, this is I added to my wish list as well. Check it out.
I might have to check that out for sure. All right. Appreciate that, Robstone. All right, so let's move on to the news. If you can
what we're gonna start with, Call of Duty is too big to fail. Now, this is something that can be, I would say it could be a little controversial, but I do think that it's worth talking about. So Activision leadership isn't worried about Battlefield 6 because Call of Duty is too big to fail. Now, that statement in itself, I'm not going to say that, not oxymoronic, but it is a statement that I do find hilarious because I don't necessarily think it's true, but there is some validity to it, right?
Right.
There is a level of, okay, I get it. But it says Insider Gaming has learned that Activision leadership has been taking note of Battlefield 6 recent hype, but is not worried that the franchise will surpass Call of Duty. Speaking with sources who wish to remain anonymous because they were not authorized to talk about Activision's internal conversations, it's been said that although Activision is keeping a close eye on Battlefield, they are not worried about the game outcompeting its flagship franchise. It's said that Activision leadership believes the Call of Duty is too big to fail and will remain a profitable, annually released franchise for many years to come. At the time of writing, an annual Call of Duty title is penciled in for the next 4 years at least.
Sheesh.
This year's Call of Duty title, dubbed Black Ops 7, is said to be a strong title, according to those familiar with the game's plans, despite initial problems in development. Interestingly enough, this year's Call of Duty will take place in a slightly futuristic setting similar to Battlefield 6, with both games targeting a similar audience. Whether or not that direct competition will impact Call of Duty is unclear, but at the time of writing, Activision doesn't think it will. So there's also Battlefield. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
There's also Battlefield 6's Battlefield Battle Royale to consider, which is believed to be a free-to-play component to the premium game. If EA can take a considerable chunk out of Call of Duty Warzone's player base, which has been depleting for the last couple of years, it could have detrimental impact on Call of Duty's long-term player base.
Yeah, so
Call of Duty Black Ops 7 is set to get a full reveal at this year's opening night live on August 19th, which we did see that already. Yeah.
So what's funny about this is that I think this could go one of two ways, Till, and I do believe that it is holistically possible for Call of Duty to fail in modern times now. And the reason why I say that is because what happens is when it becomes cool to hate something, kind of like the general consensus delivers a huge impact on that something. Now, again, now hear me out when I say this. It could be one of two ways. So this is just one way. This is the one way it could fail, and I got one way that it obviously won't. The one way it could fail is, like I said, it becomes cool to hate Call of Duty. And when that happens, because Battlefield 6 is quote unquote that good, we don't know yet. Obviously, we don't know October 10th, but because Battlefield 6 is that good, that much better, and then the Battle Royale is that much better, less cheating, less and more fun, more intense, more unique situations, then everybody runs to TikTok or Facebook or Instagram or Twitter and they blast Call of Duty. They just talk so much mess. Call of Duty Black Ops 7 is so terrible. It's so terrible. It's so terrible. And then general consensus makes it cool to hate Call of Duty. And when you hate Call of Duty, it's like the situation for D4 Bad. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with, that's Diablo 4. And the community just called that game bad because almost a year after Diablo 4 launched, Path of Exile 2 went into early access, and it was just leagues above better than Diablo 4 when Path of Exile isn't even done. Like, it was this first iteration of early access, and it was already had more content, more skills, more builds, more just everything than Diablo 4, which has been out for a year. So the coin D4 bag got termed on Twitch, and then it just took off. And now Diablo 4 has been hemorrhaging players ever since. So now the second part as to why Call of Duty is too big to fail is because Call of Duty players are Call of Duty players. And you have to look at them like 2K players or Madden players or Assassin's Creed players. Those people that only buy one game a year or maybe 2.5 games a year and they just play those games. And what I mean by 2.5 games is I mean like they buy Call of Duty and then they get like a skin pack for Warzone or something like that. And then they play 2K or then they play Madden. So those people are always going to play Call of Duty, and it's so many of those people. So many of those people that I think it's relevant that it's too big to fail.
And I agree with you, what you're saying, right? And I kind of see it a little different because I thought it was going to be more of a trendy based thing and not necessarily in terms of like, hey, this game or Call of Duty is bad, right? I was thinking that it could very easily, like you said, with TikTok, all it really takes is one viral clip or one large creator to sit down and play the game and just gloat about how great it feels to play something like this, right? And what I think the largest impact of a game like Battlefield does to a game like Call of Duty 6 is the fact that Call of Duty comes out every year.
Yep.
It comes out every single year. So it's not like you're getting something entirely new every year. You really are getting the same game with a new skin on it every single year. So when something new comes out that is going to feel different, it's going to play different, it's going to sound different, it's going to look different, and it is going to focus on different elements, people are going to pick that game up just because. Like, those Call of Duty players are going to pick the game up. Now, what Battlefield has to do is capitalize on that conversion rate.
Yes, retain.
You know what I mean? It's like making a sale. You know what I mean? If that person picks that game up and they don't instantly fall in love with it, which I kind of feel like the cool thing about Battlefield is that it has those multiple roles. If you want to play a running gunner like you're playing Call of Duty 6 and you're good at Call of Duty, you're going to pick it up and you're probably going to be good at that specific class.
Yeah.
Now, if you found Call of Duty a little bit too difficult and you want to pick up something, but you want to be able to still feel like you're impacting and helping the team, you can still pick up a support.
Yep.
You can do so much. There's so much vast, like,
variety.
There's so many, variety in the game that it does have something for a lot of people. And I think while Activision Blizzard in Call of Duty they're not worried so much about how Battlefield 6 will siphon off some of their players.
Black Ops 7.
Yeah, Black Ops, sorry. They're not worried about how Battlefield 6 will siphon off some of their players. What I foresee is that amount of versatility, especially within friend groups. You know what I mean? If you have friends who play the same game together, that game could definitely be just more enticing, because if you're a solo player, you're probably going to play Call of Duty. Let's be real. You're going to pick up Battlefield for a little bit and then you're probably going to switch back to Call of Duty.
You think so?
But maybe, I'm not sure, because I did play solo quite a bit myself and I did enjoy Battlefield, where I don't really enjoy playing Call of Duty solo. Let's be honest. I don't. I mean, I really don't enjoy playing as a team either. But Battlefield, I did enjoy playing solo, and I know for a fact I feel like I would enjoy playing as a group, or even just how it plays now, and just following with the squad and making sure I'm with my team. I can definitely see it being one of those things that, hey, the boys getting on, let's play Battlefield 6.
Yep.
And that I definitely feel like could be a huge siphon for Call of Duty.
I've seen so many clips of people who's never played Battlefield before playing Battlefield 6 and is just having a ball. Like they're laughing with their boys and they're just giggling and chuckling and just that feeling you haven't had in the shooter game probably since early Call of Duty Black Ops 3. We on 7 right now. So I do think, again, especially now with Black Ops 7, and I'm going to be honest with you with respect, because this is all about us talking about video games with respect. I do think Call of Duty Black Ops 7 don't look that great with their futuristic way of doing things. It's going to, unfortunately, and I don't wish this on nobody because I don't want anybody to get laid off or anything like that. But unfortunately, I feel like it's going to do what Advanced Warfare or Infinite Warfare did. While they did sell extremely well, still for, well, quote unquote, extremely well, they still were their like Call of Duty's biggest flops as far as like Call of Duty games go. And
right,
it's looking concerning. Black Ops is, I forget that they released their release date during Gamescom, so I forget what it was, but I know October 10th, Battlefield, I think Black Ops comes out November 7th, which is my 1 year anniversary.
Yep.
That'll be terrible. Terrible. Terrible for them if Battlefield is taking up most of the space, if you will.
Yeah. But it also does give Battlefield time to breathe. So people can play it for a bit and say, okay, well, maybe now it is time to go back to Call of Duty and see what that's like.
Interesting.
But,
you know what I just thought about? You're right. You're absolutely right. I didn't even think about that. If Battlefield came out second, I think it would have been a bigger deal.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think with Call of Duty coming out second, then people are going to play Battlefield and they're going to be like, okay, let's see what Call of Duty has to offer. And they're still going to buy it anyway. So maybe it just is too big to fail.
But it could be, it's the timing too. But it could also, I mean, like I said, Battlefield, if it does a really good job of giving players that flexibility, that freedom to feel like they are actually doing something. Yeah, like they don't need that Call of Duty fix or feel. It could 100% retain those players.
You're right. You're absolutely right. All right. Let's talk about some new and upcoming releases before we head on to the critical hit, Tail.
All right, brother. My new and upcoming release, actually, Dad Needs to Talk actually dropped it in the Discord. So if y'all haven't already connected to the Discord, jump in there and check out what's going on. But Hollow Knight Silksong comes out September 4th, which as of right now is 3 days away. But for you, it's tomorrow. Now, I actually literally just purchased Hollow Knight, and I have never played Hollow Knight before, but Silksong looked like a ton of fun.
Yeah, I haven't played Hollow Knight either.
So, I mean, it's $10. It's $10. Yeah. So I bought it, and Silksong will be $20 on release. So I feel like, hey, I'm going to get 2 games for $30.
2 fantastic games for $30.
Yeah. So I'm excited, especially since this is going to be my first time really like diving into that. So you might get 2 videos from me this week. Awesome. Just be prepared.
So the thing with Hollow Knight came out during a time where I just wasn't into the platformers. Mm-hmm. I was just kind of over it because at the time it was Shovel Knight. I played a lot of Shovel Knight. It was just a bunch of platformers that I just was like, I'm kind of platformered out, 2D platformered
Right.
out. So I didn't try Hollow Knight, but I always heard great things about it, like great things about it from a variety of people that I respect. Actually, everybody that I heard talk about Hollow Knight say the good things, only good things. So I think I might have to grab them too because it's just so. I mean, it's $30 for two.
It's $30.
$30 so for two wonderful games, which is unheard of in today's
In 2025.
Yeah. So definitely looking forward to that. And then we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but Hell Is Us is out actually September 4th, which does look interesting. It only has a 77 on Metacritic, but I'm still intrigued to give it a try because it's a unique RPG that I'm all here for. Very very simulation like that I kind of like, and the fact that it doesn't like use any HUDs or maps or quest markers or anything like that. You have to kind of go off of the NPC's direction or sound cues even to help you lead to the next areas and or help you lead to complete quests. It's awesome. It's an awesome idea. So it comes out on PS5, PC, and Xbox Series series systems on September 4th.
Tomorrow.
Yep, tomorrow. From the time you're hearing this, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Hell Is Us looks interesting. Okay, and Tell brought this amazing critical hit idea that I am so looking forward to talking to because I think it's going to bring a great conversation because I think we got two very different perspectives here.
Yes. So this critical hit is pertaining to a little bit about how we play games for either one of us, but gaming with friends versus single player gaming. Now, when I think about this, I'm going to say gaming with friends. I do think about like gaming with Polo and the boys, right? Mm-hmm. And then I also think about just multiplayer gaming in general, but gaming with friends, I'm aiming that towards playing with the boys, right? Yeah. And then single player gaming, what games or how are the games I'm playing solo? So the first question I want to go with is what makes either one of those fun, right? What makes gaming with the boys fun, Brolo?
So what makes it fun? I think what makes it fun is, for me, and I'm going to talk specifically for the sake of MMOs for this particular part of this question. And that's when you can get your very unreliable friends, with respect, to sit down and come do a dungeon or a raid or something like that. Then it is so much fun. We've managed to do that one time in Guild Wars 2 where we got together and ran, I believe they called them fractals, but they're dungeons. And it was so much fun because none of us knew what we were doing. So like we didn't know any of the mechanics and we just worked together to figure it all out with the boys. It's very rare that we're able to do something like that because it's just getting everybody to the same place at the same time and on at the same time. It's tough, but that is what makes it fun when you could do stuff together like that and you essentially don't know the answer to whatever multiplayer game you're playing, i.e. raids, dungeons, and MMOs. So and for single player games, I love the fact that I could take them at my own pace, man. That makes that so much more fun to me. And I'm gonna get into a little bit more in detail on what I mean by that. But I love playing the games how I want to play because I talked about this 2 weeks ago on our episode 6, but I'm an empath when it comes to story. Like I get so invested in stories and MMOs and even games that are supposed to be like, the story is nothing. You're supposed to the gameplay is king. But I still try my best to get invested in the story. So I take my time. I read dialogue. I read, notes and stuff like that. So it's just, I try to take my time in single player games, and that's what makes it fun to me. What about you, Tel?
So starting off with gaming with friends, I have so many like things that come to mind when I think about gaming with friends. I think about middle school and high school battling Keith and Dexter in Pokemon. I think about, like I said, coming over your place and playing like Pikmin. And I think about getting on Grand Theft Auto and how we was borderline role playing the life out of that game, bro.
Like even before role playing was a thing. Yeah.
It was crazy, yeah. But it was so much fun. And gaming with friends, it just has a whole nother different like layer to it that I think, yes, there is the actual in-game concept that feels extremely relevant, right? Because you are playing a game, so you want to get something out of the in-game philosophy of it. But I do think a lot of it comes with like the back and forth with the impact between two people. And when I'm gaming with the boys, it's always funny. Like
it's true.
Like, man, it's the humor in the moment. It's what's going on. It's the conversation that's attached to it. It's laughing at the mess ups. And I'm going to talk about one of them when we get to when we start talking about examples. But I do think that it's a lot of it is really about, almost like what you were saying, is that getting together and getting to do the actual mission. And then I'm just all tied into the actual stuff that happens when we're talking and we're playing games.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to single player games, a lot of it is the challenge. And when I say this, right, there are some single player games that I played that are not challenging, but I do think that my personal idea is that if the game doesn't feel like a little difficult, then I might not enjoy it. But it has to be like the right level of difficulty, because I will play a multiplayer game like a single player game. And I say that like with Elden Ring Night Rain. I will play that like a single player game. I'm playing with my teammates. I'm not playing, I'm being a teammate, but I'm not conversing. I'm not worried about conversation. I'm just worried about how I'm getting to the end.
Right.
But single player games, I also think about how I am heavily invested in those characters, specifically because it's not about a back and forth conversation with anybody. It's about like being invested in that story and taking part in what's happening on the screen. So I do think that we may have similar perspectives on that, specifically when it comes to single player gaming.
You know, I never really thought about this too, but when it comes to gaming with friends, it doesn't even necessarily have to be playing the same game with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're all playing Path of Exile, but we're all in different parts and different paces, and we're just talking about the game. That
exactly
with gaming with friends is also, I think, very fun too, because, and I guess we'll talk about it when we get there, but the examples, we got one just that happened today that's just hilarious. It probably won't come across if I tell it on the podcast, so I will refrain, but it's just moments of just random chatter that just happens, even though we're all playing the same game, at different places, different paces. It's very interesting to see how we are all doing it and the stuff we go through. But what for you brings the experience down in gaming?
So
with friends,
I've always talked about this with gaming with friends, and I've said this every time, and I'm pretty sure you already know what I'm going to say.
I do.
It's falling behind.
Yep.
Oh, I hate it so much. I hate falling behind. It's like, yo, y'all play and you 10 hours ahead of me. I'm like, gosh, I'm never going to catch up. Yeah. And I know that ultimately that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? I know that ultimately doesn't matter, especially in certain games that we have played together. I've been power leveled by y'all before. Mm-hmm. We have played games together where the time difference didn't matter much. Like, I'm thinking about like Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah.
Like, I got power leveled in that game, but because I just felt behind, I couldn't. It couldn't work for me. But that's really the only thing that'll kill it for me is that I don't. It's almost every other aspect of it is perfectly fine. Yeah. It's the feeling behind. And then when it comes to single player gaming, really the only thing that can bring that down is the game itself. Right? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, and that could be the difficulty, that could be the lack of immersion. And like what Claire did so well, the soundtrack, that there needs to be elements to that game that makes you feel like enthralled, like you are absolutely drawn in, and that just has to be that ability to yo, I just had the best hour of my life playing that game, and like you said, I can put it down and walk away. But if the game doesn't have that, where you're constantly doing things that feel like it doesn't respect your time, it almost feels like, why am I playing this?
Right. That's a good point. Yeah.
What about you?
So what brings the experience down for me, and this is probably why I would never do this again. I remember, I can't remember the year, but it was Divinity Original Sin 2. Okay. When that game came out, and you could play the entire story co-op. And Divinity Original Sin 2 is the same developer, Larian Studios, which is the same developer who bought Gate 3, if you don't know. I played Divinity Original Sin 1. I loved it. Enjoyed every second of it. Played Divinity Original Sin 2. Played some of it. And then we decided, me, Malik, and Legal, the boys, decided that we were going to do a campaign run together. And what brings that down for me is neither one of those guys are the same way when it comes to story in games like that. Like in that game, you can, like all three of us can go in completely separate areas and talk to completely separate people and have completely separate dialogue options and stuff like that. Again, because I play a game so seriously and empathic when it comes to the story, I get invested. I create me and role play the best I can and pick the answers I would pick. It's impossible to do that with a group of people who just don't care as much as I do when it comes to that type of stuff.
And that story was so good.
It's so good. They're blowing up stuff, stealing from people. They're doing all this in the background while I'm sitting here trying to talk to this NPC about the detriment of the world, and they're fucking putting barrels in their pocket and then laying them next to me and then blowing up. You know what I'm saying? It's stuff like that brings the experience down. Like I would never play Baldur's Gate 3 with the boys ever. They kept trying to get me to play with them in multiplayer. I'm like, no, I will play this single player, and I played it single player all the way through and enjoyed every second of it, including the time when I beat it. So I love it.
That is hilarious. I'm sorry, that's not funny. It's not. No, funny, it is hilarious. It's kind of hilarious.
It's very hilarious. But that's exactly what brings it down for me. In single player gaming, again, it's the same thing you said. Really, it's just the game itself. If I'm not having fun, or if you know what? Let me bring up a different point. What brings a single player game down for me is when I put it down to do something else, or life happens, and I go back to pick it up and I just don't remember anything. That brings the experience down for me. It's not necessarily the fact that the game has done it. It's just stepping away for 4 or 5 days and then coming back and like, oh, what was I doing again? And I just start all over. And then when I start all over, I'm like, now I got to do this all over again. I don't really feel like doing this all over again. Now I'll come back to it later when I can forget more of the story. You know what I'm saying? So I got to forget more of it and then I come back to it later. But that's the only thing that in single player games that bring it down, because if it's a single player game that I don't like, I just won't play it.
Right.
But for example, though, I'm gonna give you a specific example when it comes to single player games. Sorry to skip ahead a little bit, but the perfect example is Stalker 2. I restarted that game 7 times, but it's mostly because I was waiting for patches to come through and fix like a lot of the stuff that is going on with the game, that I had to keep restarting. When the game is finally ready to be played, I restarted. I'm like, I just don't feel like investing that time because I got this, I got that, I got this all coming up, and I put it down again. I'm like, okay, I'll just wait until, and then who knows when I'm gonna come back. So that's just one example of that.
True, and that's reasonable. Because once you put it down, you lose the rhythm of the game. Yep. You kind of got to get back into the element,
especially Stalker 2, because it's very difficult.
Yeah, you got to get back to the element. You got to not necessarily remember how to play, but the rhythm of play. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like there's a certain way you need to get your head right.
Yep.
To even play certain games. So yeah. So specific expectations when you're playing single player or with friends, right? And I'll say this. And I'll ask specifically for your single player in a second. But when I play a single player game, my expectation is almost purely story centric until it gets to like a difficulty standpoint, right? So, and I'll say that, like, for instance, I'll play a game for the kids. if I'm playing a game for the kids, they like horror games, oddly enough. So it has to be like somewhat story centric to where they enjoy the story. But if I'm playing for myself, like they like Little Nightmares. Okay. Little Nightmares has a crazy story,
very intense,
with very few words, but it's a crazy story. But it's actually kind of beautifully intense, right? But when I'm playing a game for myself, a lot of it is me being challenged. So I expect that there's a level of mystery to the game. There's something to figure out. And the puzzle could just be how I'm going to play. And I guess that comes out to be like, I need some freedom in how I'm going to actually play, right? Some freedom in how I'm going to choose to direct my gameplay, which really, and I'll get to it later, but I almost think of like Oblivion in terms of that kind of stuff. Yeah. But what would be your expectation for single player first?
Enough options, right? If I don't have enough options, if I feel like my choices or in the single player games, because again I'm very RPG centric, if I feel like my choices don't matter or my options are very limited, then I won't get invested again into the character, because again, like I said, I like to role play myself into what I'm playing, right? So like this, my thought process is, okay, how would I answer this question? Not, I want to answer this question and see what happens. How would I answer this question? And as if the choices are something that I wouldn't dare say or do, i.e. being when the very first time I played Mass Effect, it was enough choices for me to say, okay, I would talk shit here or I wouldn't talk shit here. You know what I'm saying? So sorry again, that's another example, but yeah, that is my expectations to have for single player games, to have enough options. And I think the perfect game for that is Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk has so many options.
All the options.
Some would say too many options.
Almost no such thing.
Yeah, true. But that's the perfect example I can give for my expectations for single player games. What about your expectations for gaming with friends, though?
Now, ironically enough, my expectation with gaming with friends is very similar to what you just said, options. And I mean options in terms of build diversity. We play when we play with the boys, you know what I mean? Like I said, I think about Diablo, but it's like we all wanted to play something different. You know what I mean? We didn't want to piggyback and jump on each other's shoulders, or if we're going to play the same class, we're going to play it differently. Yeah. I'm that guy, man. Polo and I literally like to play the same build.
Almost every build.
We literally like to play the same build, bro. And it's funny because it's like,
I don't mind though.
I know you don't, but I'm like, all right, is Polo playing the minions? All right, cool. Let me pick something else until he's done. And I know, right? I know. But my brain is like, I'm gonna be playing with bro. So let me do something different. So we not literally running the same exact thing. Even if it was optimal, like I don't mind being unoptimal to feel like there's some diversity in how we're playing, just to see that there could be some kind of synergy in terms of how that plays out, right? And to me, it's an expectation. It's something that I just personally like. And I know it's completely unnecessary, but I like it. It's important to me to be able to say there was enough options to where everybody had a chance to play a different role in the game. And that's, I guess in my mind, it's my D&D brain. Yeah. I think of Dungeons and Dragons. I think you need these different roles to facilitate different things in gameplay. Yeah,
that's true. That's very, very true.
And what about you, bro?
I think setting expectations for playing with friends is the biggest issue when it comes to playing with friends, because when you have the friends we have, it's best to lower your expectations on anything. Because for one, I can tell you now, I have two friends that can't decide any class they're going to play. They will re-roll 17 times, that being multi-purpose and legal overdose, before they ever even start the game. right? And then you have one that is a little more like me and set in stone, but they will play the game to death, i.e. Neb. So like that, just I think personally, my specific expectations is to lower my expectations when I'm playing with my friends. Does that make sense?
Bro said,
with respect.
Temper your expectations.
Temper your expectations. Yep.
Tell's not logging on today.
Yep. Tell got 17 kids, so you ain't gonna. No, I'm just kidding.
Legal and Malik changed their character today, and Neb has not gotten off at all.
Yep. So I just gotta lower my expectations and play it and expect it to be challenging when playing with friends.
So sticking kind of a little bit to expectations, but also going to like gaming with friends, what is your like perfect example of like a game of you gaming with friends? Like what is the prime example of what would facilitate the experience that you'd want playing like gaming with friends?
So there's two, and I already mentioned both, but one being able to actually get them together to do fractals or dungeons or raids in any MMO, be a blast. I think that's freaking phenomenal. Like, to give another example, when Lost Ark first came out, I think even you were playing it, wasn't you? But when Lost Ark first came out, and we did, I believe it was a dungeon. And we did a dungeon, and we saw the mechanics, and we were all dancing around these mechanics and playing that game. That was a blast. Perfect example of like what I want to experience when it comes to playing with friends. Or the second one, that being while we're playing the same game separately, and just seeing their experiences versus mine versus, you know what I'm saying? So multi-purpose is a little bit further than I am, actually a lot bit further than I am in Path of Exile, because I started a new character and he was fighting his boss today and something happened and he just shouted something that was just so hilarious. And it's just moments like that I wish we could just capture on video so y'all can understand how hilarious it was, because telling it here now would just fall on deaf ears. But it was just a moment that happened that had us crying, laughing. And that is like the perfect example of playing of gaming with friends, where we're all playing the same thing while we're not playing it together, while we're on in the same lobbies. We're playing the same games, but just experiencing different things and laughing about it and talking about it and discussing builds and discussing things that we're going to do and change. That's the perfect example of gaming with friends, I think.
I think of, and I know I feel like this is going to be almost like an unpopular kind of a, like statement. But when I think of like the best example of like gaming with friends for me, and it's relatively recent, but not super recent, but like I remember us playing New World when that came out.
Yeah.
And that's man, I really enjoyed playing that game with y'all. And I know it, but like the little dungeons and stuff we did, running around the world. Hey, what build you doing? What you doing? You training with this weapon? And we find out switching weapons and stuff like that.
And you could do it at any time, which was cool.
Yeah, anytime. I just thought it was like, it felt cool playing that game with y'all, right? And to me, while the experience kind of like, I'll say it relatively quickly dwindled down when you got into like the economics of the game and other stuff as things unfolded. But the very early experience of that was like, man, if MMOs felt like that the entire time for me,
yeah,
I don't think I would be able to put an MMO down.
That's a good point. Either.
But yeah, bro, that's what it felt like. That is my perfect example of what gaming with friends, that feeling, because like I said, it had everything I wanted, the diversity, all of that stuff in the early game, but post game does matter, late game does matter, mid game does matter, you know what I mean? Because the early game aspect of that was just the learning, and you know what I mean, that's what made it so cool. We were all learning the game at the same time. And that's also the thing, like I said, I wasn't behind, so I'm in there, I'm learning the game at the same time as y'all. We're all figuring out what we want to build at the same time. And it was tremendously fun to me. It was tremendously fun.
That's a good example. Very memorable too, experience.
Yeah.
And then shortly after it just diminished, because you gotta mine all these resources and do all this stuff that you just don't want to do in an MMO usually. Like you want to grind for your gear, not mine it. But some people do, some people don't. But to have the options, right? Yeah. And then the best example of single player for me, man, I think I go back to Baldur's Gate 3. Again, listening to, and this is going to be on both sides, but listening to my friends try to play together, and one leaves and the other continues to play, like Legal does something else, and then Neb continues the story without him, and then they're talking back and forth about, oh man, you left me hanging, and blah, 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 while I'm over here already beating the game because I'm invested in my story with my character and my party, and it ended up turning out to be some of the most fun I've ever had. And that's, again, perfect prime example of it's Baldur's Gate 3. I think it was the best experience because it was a game where I just sat down for a week straight and didn't, for that week, put in maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks, put in 100 hours and beat it. It was just like so satisfying. It was so good. Yeah. And then now I did that when it launched. Baldur's Gate 3 has had significant updates with significant changes and significant like add-ons and stuff like that I can go back now. I want to forget it a little bit more. Yep. And then play a whole new game. Another perfect example.
So I kind of have like two with the single player aspect. And one of them was just because I was sitting in Discord a lot with you guys when it first happened. But when Cyberpunk Edge Runners first came out, it was a lot of that same experience where we were all in Discord and there was like games. No, the game. Oh, because when it first came out, I did have it and I did start playing it.
I remember.
I just didn't continue as long, but it was hearing the different things that everybody was getting.
Dialogue choices, yeah.
The different reactions, the different scenarios, the different gameplay styles. It was such a cool concept. Like I almost wish that it was a multiplayer game that we were playing together because it just felt like I could see what you were doing. Even not like watching. It felt like when we knew what was happening, it was amazing. But I always go back to like these two specific games when I think of like me playing single player. Elder Scrolls. It just, for me, the world is an option. Yes. That's what the whole aspect of it is for me. I can go off on a tangent and never touch the main story until the very end.
That's huge.
And to me, that is so cool. I'm okay with that. I want to go find a unicorn in the middle of the woods, fight it, and then go do whatever else I want to do, which I love that mission in Elder Scrolls, to find a unicorn. But then you have like Kingdom Hearts, which is just one of my favorite games of all time. I was so heavily invested in the characters. I'm so heavily invested in like how the music makes me feel while watching these characters get through their life choices and what's happening in the world. If I'm invested in those situations, because I'll say this, while I think Elder Scrolls has an amazing story, a lot of the story is the world itself. You know what I mean? It's just the world, and your character, you don't necessarily feel like you will be invested in your character, but your character is kind of like just you. But in like Kingdom Hearts, like you're playing Sora, you're playing Riku, you're playing Kairi, you're playing all these other characters, and their interactions with each other. I do have to say I've found myself loving how each element of their stories are told, and to me that is just one thing that, like, man, I can't ever get over.
Which one do you ultimately prefer?
Oh, single player or multiplayer?
Or yeah.
And this is gonna sound crazy when I say this. I prefer playing games with the boys. I just never do. Yeah. I don't feel like I always have the time to play games with the boys, but I
got a family.
Thoroughly prefer playing games with the boys versus playing games solo.
For me, I prefer to play games solo with the boys.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
That's ultimately. I know it's kind of a cop out answer or a cheat answer, but that's the truth.
That's the realest.
Yeah, like when I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3, I'm playing it in Discord with the boys and going through my experiences without obviously spoiling them, but it's like, oh, reacting, and then they're reacting, etc. And then playing games like Path of Exile. We're all playing it together, but we're playing it separately. That's just the best time. Like playing it by myself is fun. Sure, I could do that, but it isn't the same. So,
Right.
So essentially, that's my answer. I think it's cheap, but it is what it is.
I don't think it's cheap. I think it's a perfect answer. I think it's a great answer.
Yeah. And now, what's coming up this week? Let's talk about Game Over.
All right. So I kind of already spilled the beans on mine. I'm playing Hollow Knight.
I really, really want you to play Hollow Knight.
So yeah, that's me.
That's what you do all week?
I'm not sure because I know Hollow Knight will be for sure. But I'm not. Anything could happen. I've been wanting to play, and I know this is going to sound crazy. I've been wanting to play Pokemon Unite.
Okay.
Been watching gameplay, and it's been a long time since I played it. But they introduced a bunch of new characters, and it's like, or not new characters. They put a bunch of new Pokemon in the game, and it makes me interested in picking it up and playing it because it's going to feel almost entirely new and fresh at this point in terms of how I will play, how I would engage with the game, or even what class I want to play the most. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably going to be part of it. So it's going to be between Hollow Knight and Pokemon Unite.
Amazing. Thank you for covering for me. I just sneeze. For me, it's going to be more Path of Exile 2. Again, I'm still invested. I haven't gotten to maps yet because Path of Exile 2, what they did was they updated the game to where instead of you having to play Acts 1 through 3 and then Acts 1 through 3 cruel version again, they got Acts 1 through 3 and they added Act 4 and then they added some interlude acts that you could play through to get you to maps. So I'm going to experience that new piece, those new pieces of the story, because I haven't done that yet completely this week. And then obviously I'm going to pick up Guild Wars 2 again soon. So that's always going to be played from now on because I do enjoy that MMO. Actually, in Guild Wars 2, I actually joined a PvP guild, which do world v world PvPs, and it is so much fun. I mean, it's just incredibly fun. So, and it's a good way to get gear too. So I am very interested in doing more of that this week. And with that, that's a wrap for episode 7 of Respec Gaming. We appreciate you guys for listening. Make sure you join our Discord, follow us on social media, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We would appreciate that. Thank you so very much for doing so. And take a listen to my check. And as always, respect the game. Peace.